Have you ever wondered why two people can seem perfect together, yet end up hurting each other despite their best intentions? Why is it that we often repeat the same mistakes in relationships, even when we know better? This is where pop psychology and relationship psychology intersect, and where the truth about human connection often hides in plain sight. Pop psychology gives us catchy phrases like opposites attract or love is blind, and while these sayings sound clever, they don't always capture the complexity of our emotions or our behaviors. Relationship psychology, on the other hand, digs beneath the surface to examine why we are drawn to certain partners, how attachment styles influence our interactions, and why patterns repeat across generations. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that attraction or chemistry alone determines the success of a relationship. Pop psychology loves the idea of instant sparks and soulmates, yet research shows that factors like emotional intelligence, communication skills, and conflict management are far more predictive of long-term satisfaction. Think about your own experiences, or the stories you've heard. How many times has a seemingly perfect connection crumbled because of misunderstandings, unexpressed needs, or emotional unavailability? We often blame the other person or fate, but the real culprit is usually a combination of our own psychological patterns and the unconscious expectations we bring to the relationship. Attachment theory is one of the most revealing lenses through which to understand relationships. Whether someone is secure, anxious, or avoidant, these styles shape the way we seek closeness, interpret behaviors, and respond to conflict. Pop psychology often ignores these nuances, offering oversimplified advice like, just communicate better or love yourself more. While self-awareness and communication are important, they are not cure-alls. Recognizing your attachment style and that of your partner can help you predict potential challenges and navigate them with more compassion and less judgment. Another area where pop psychology can mislead is the glamorization of emotional highs. Movies, books, and social media glorify passion, drama, and the roller coaster of intense feelings, making us believe that true love must be tumultuous. Relationship psychology reminds us that stability, trust, and shared values often outweigh intensity when it comes to long-term satisfaction. Emotional regulation isn't just a buzzword. It's a skill that allows partners to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively when tension arises. Miscommunication is another silent driver of relational distress. Cognitive biases like confirmation bias or the tendency to catastrophize can escalate minor disagreements into major conflicts. Pop psychology might suggest simple tricks to avoid fights, but understanding the cognitive and emotional processes underlying communication is far more effective. By learning to recognize our automatic thought patterns, we gain the power to respond intentionally rather than react unconsciously, breaking destructive cycles that repeat over and over. Finally, the most powerful insight comes from turning the lens inward. Relationship psychology teaches that by understanding our own psychological patterns, our triggers, and our unmet needs, we can transform how we connect with others. We stop projecting unresolved emotions onto our partners and begin to engage from a place of curiosity, empathy, and self-responsibility. Pop psychology may catch our attention with catchy phrases and viral advice, but true growth in relationships comes from introspection, study, and deliberate practice. The more we understand ourselves, the more authentic and meaningful our connections become. Relationships are not a puzzle to be solved by clever quotes or quick tips. They are dynamic systems shaped by our histories, emotions, and choices. By moving beyond surface-level pop psychology and embracing the deeper insights of relationship psychology, we can navigate love, intimacy, and connection with awareness, compassion, and intelligence. Have you ever caught yourself repeating advice you read on social media or a catchy quote from a self-help book, only to realize it didn't actually help you in real life? That's the power and the danger of pop psychology. Pop psychology has a way of boiling down complex human behavior into short, digestible phrases that seem insightful at first glance. Statements like opposites attract or love conquers all are easy to remember. They're easy to repeat, and they often feel comforting because they suggest there's a simple rule to something that is actually deeply complicated. The problem is that human behavior, and especially human relationships, rarely follow simple rules. Oversimplification can lead us to misunderstand our own motives, the motives of others, and even the nature of love itself. Consider the advice often given to someone experiencing conflict in a relationship. Just communicate better, or if they really loved you, they would understand. These statements, while superficially helpful, ignore the layers of psychological dynamics that are in play. Communication is not just about exchanging words, it's about understanding emotional patterns, attachment styles, and unspoken needs. Love is not just a feeling that solves problems automatically, it is a complex interplay of trust, empathy, and behavioral alignment over time. Pop psychology tends to paint relationships in black and white, in dramatic highs and lows, when in reality they are filled with nuance, subtle signals, and ongoing negotiation. Another way pop psychology can mislead is by promoting ideas that validate our biases. It often tells us what we want to hear rather than what we need to know. For example, hearing that some people are just not made for commitment can make someone feel justified in ending a relationship prematurely, when in reality, deeper understanding, emotional growth, and intentional effort might have made that connection thrive. The danger here is that pop psychology gives the illusion of understanding without the substance. It reassures us, but it rarely challenges us to dig deeper, to examine our own patterns, or to confront uncomfortable truths about our behavior. Ultimately, relying solely on pop psychology is like using a map of a city that only shows the main streets. You'll get some direction, but you'll miss the alleyways, the hidden connections, and the places where the real depth of the city exists. Human behavior, emotions, and relationships deserve more than simplified slogans. They require attention, reflection, and curiosity. By recognizing the limitations of pop psychology, we create space to explore the complexities of our own minds and the minds of those we care about. This is where meaningful understanding begins, and where real, lasting connection becomes possible. Have you ever wondered why some relationships feel effortless while others seem to be in constant tension? Despite both partners wanting the same thing, a healthy, loving connection? Relationship psychology offers insight into this mystery by examining the deeper dynamics that govern human interaction, focusing on attachment, personality, and emotional intelligence. Unlike pop psychology, which often simplifies relationships to surface-level advice or catchy slogans, relationship psychology investigates the underlying mechanisms that shape our behavior in partnerships. It helps us understand not just what we do, but why we do it, and how these patterns influence our connections with others. Attachment is one of the most fundamental concepts in relationship psychology. From the moment we are born, our early interactions with caregivers form patterns that influence how we perceive closeness, trust, and security in adult relationships. Those with secure attachment tend to navigate intimacy with ease, able to express needs and emotions without fear of rejection. In contrast, individuals with anxious attachment may cling or worry excessively, fearing abandonment even in healthy relationships, while avoidant attachment can lead to emotional distance or discomfort with intimacy. These patterns are rarely consciously chosen, yet they deeply affect how we interact with partners, often creating cycles of misunderstanding and conflict. Personality is another powerful factor. Traits such as openness, conscientiousness, and agreeableness shape not only how we approach life, but also how we respond to relational stressors. For example, a highly conscientious person may be reliable and attentive, but could struggle with rigidity or perfectionism in a relationship. Recognizing these personality tendencies in ourselves and our partners allows for more empathy and reduces unnecessary blame when conflicts arise. Emotional intelligence ties all of this together. It is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, while also perceiving and responding to the emotions of others. High emotional intelligence enables partners to navigate disagreements without escalating tension, to offer support when needed, and to communicate effectively even in emotionally charged situations. Without it, even the most compatible individuals can struggle to maintain harmony. By studying attachment, personality, and emotional intelligence, relationship psychology provides a roadmap for understanding not only why we act the way we do in relationships, but also how to cultivate more secure, fulfilling connections. It reveals that healthy relationships are not a matter of luck or chemistry alone. They're built on awareness, intentionality, and the willingness to understand both oneself and one's partner on a deeper psychological level. Have you ever noticed how much our ideas about love, romance, and relationships are influenced by the stories we consume? from fairy tales to blockbuster movies, from social media feeds to popular novels. Cultural narratives shape not just what we hope for in relationships, but what we believe is normal or acceptable. Relationship psychology highlights the profound impact these cultural scripts have on our expectations and how they can both guide and mislead us in our pursuit of connection. We are not blank slates when it comes to love. We carry the imprints of centuries of stories, traditions, and social norms that define how intimacy should look, how conflict should be resolved, and what love is supposed to feel like. Take, for instance, the pervasive idea that love must be dramatic to be real. Movies often depict relationships as intense, full of highs and lows, where passion is measured by the size of the conflict and the emotional intensity of reconciliation. In reality, healthy relationships often thrive on consistency, mutual respect, and small acts of care, rather than constant emotional fireworks. When we internalize cultural narratives that glorify tumultuous romance, we may unconsciously seek out partners who trigger drama, or we may misinterpret stability as boredom or lack of passion. Similarly, societal expectations around gender roles and partnership can deeply influence relational behavior. Messages like men should not show vulnerability, or women must be nurturing at all costs, create unconscious pressure to perform certain roles, often at the expense of authenticity. Relationship psychology shows us that rigid adherence to these cultural norms can contribute to miscommunication, dissatisfaction, and conflict, because partners are responding to expectations rather than to each other's real needs. Cultural narratives also shape our timing, priorities, and the milestones we value: when to fall in love, when to marry, how to handle parenting, and what constitutes success in a partnership. Pop psychology often reinforces these narratives with simplified advice like "follow your heart" or "love will find a way," which can conflict with the nuanced reality of human psychology. Understanding the cultural lens through which we view relationships allows us to question assumptions, recognize pressures that influence behavior, and make choices that are more aligned with our personal values rather than societal scripts. By examining these cultural influences, we begin to see that love is not just an individual experience but also a socially constructed one. Recognizing the stories we've been told and questioning which ones serve us versus which ones constrain us is essential for building relationships that are genuine, sustainable, and psychologically informed. It is only when we separate personal desire from societal expectation that we can create connections rooted in authenticity, mutual understanding, and lasting intimacy. Have you ever wondered why two people can feel intense love and connection one moment and then descend into conflict or misunderstanding the next? One of the key reasons is emotional regulation, or rather, the lack of it. Emotional regulation is the ability to recognize and manage our own emotions, to pause before reacting impulsively, and to respond thoughtfully in ways that support connection rather than destroy it. In the context of relationships, this skill is not optional, it is central. Without it, even the most loving intentions can spiral into hurtful interactions, leaving partners feeling misunderstood, rejected, or unappreciated. Self-awareness works hand in hand with emotional regulation. It allows us to recognize our triggers, our patterns, and the ways our past experiences shape our responses to the people we care about most. Pop psychology often oversimplifies this process, offering advice like "just stay calm" or "communicate better," as if these statements alone could solve deep-seated emotional reactions. But relationship psychology shows that understanding the mechanics of our own emotional world is far more complex and far more rewarding. Self-awareness requires observing our own feelings without judgment, noticing when anxiety, frustration, or resentment is influencing our behavior, and understanding the underlying needs or fears driving those emotions. Emotional regulation is the skillful application of that awareness, choosing responses that reflect intention rather than habit. When emotional regulation is practiced consistently, conflicts lose their destructive power. Partners can discuss sensitive topics without fear of escalation, misunderstandings can be addressed before they become entrenched, and patterns of defensiveness or withdrawal can be broken. This doesn't mean suppressing feelings or avoiding difficult conversations. It means processing emotions, acknowledging them internally, and then communicating in a way that fosters understanding and connection. Self-awareness also deepens empathy. By understanding our own emotional landscape, we become better able to Recognize the emotional states of our partners. Respond with care, and anticipate how our words or actions may impact them. Emotional intelligence in relationships is not just about controlling your own reactions. It's about creating an environment where both partners feel seen, heard, and valued. Ultimately, emotional regulation and self-awareness are the foundations upon which healthy relationships are built. They allow us to navigate the inevitable challenges of intimacy with grace, resilience, and insight. They transform conflict from a source of division into an opportunity for growth. By cultivating these skills, we move beyond reactive patterns, deepen our connections, and create partnerships that are not only sustainable, but profoundly fulfilling. Have you ever noticed how small disagreements in relationships often escalate into major conflicts, leaving both people feeling frustrated or hurt, even when neither actually wants the fight? One of the main reasons this happens is miscommunication, fueled by cognitive biases that distort the way we interpret our partner's words and actions. Relationship psychology reveals that many arguments are not caused by fundamental incompatibility, but by the way our brains perceive and react to information. Cognitive biases, those mental shortcuts that help us navigate the world, can work against us in relationships, turning small misunderstandings into emotional storms. Take, for example, confirmation bias, the tendency to notice information that supports what we already believe and ignore evidence that contradicts it. If we subconsciously believe that our partner doesn't care about us, we are more likely to interpret neutral statements as evidence of neglect, even if they had no such intent. Similarly, catastrophizing can make a minor disagreement feel like a relationship-ending event, causing partners to respond defensively or withdraw emotionally. These biases often operate outside of conscious awareness, which is why even well-intentioned, loving individuals can find themselves repeating destructive patterns over and over again. Miscommunication compounds the problem. Many people assume that their partner thinks, feels, or perceives reality in the same way they do, which is rarely true. Subtle differences in language, tone, or timing can completely alter the meaning of a message. Pop psychology often suggests simple fixes like, just talk it out, but relationship psychology shows that effective communication requires more than just words. It requires empathy, active listening, and awareness of both one's own emotional state and that of the partner. Without these, even sincere attempts to explain oneself can be misunderstood, fueling a cycle of frustration. What's remarkable is that understanding these dynamics provides a roadmap for reducing conflict. By becoming aware of our cognitive biases, we can question automatic assumptions rather than accepting them as reality. By slowing down and reflecting before reacting, we can prevent minor misunderstandings from escalating. Partners who cultivate this awareness can transform conflicts into opportunities for connection rather than division. Ultimately, the conflicts that feel like evidence of incompatibility are often symptoms of unexamined thought patterns and communication breakdowns. By recognizing the role of cognitive biases and miscommunication, we gain the power to respond with insight, patience, and empathy. Relationships improve not because people suddenly become perfect, but because they learn to navigate the complexities of perception, interpretation, and expression with skill and awareness, fostering connection instead of division. Have you ever found yourself in a cycle, repeating the same mistakes in relationships, attracting similar partners, or reacting to conflict in predictable ways? One of the most powerful insights from relationship psychology is that the key to transforming these patterns begins with understanding yourself. Our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are shaped by experiences, upbringing, and unconscious beliefs, and they strongly influence how we relate to others. Without self-awareness, we risk projecting unresolved fears, insecurities, or expectations onto our partners, which can distort reality and create unnecessary tension. But when we take the time to examine our own psychological patterns, we gain the ability to break these cycles and build more authentic, fulfilling connections. Self-reflection allows us to recognize recurring themes in our relationships, such as tendencies toward codependency, avoidance, or defensiveness. These patterns are not personal failures, they are adaptive responses developed over time, often as ways to protect ourselves. Once identified, they can be understood, adjusted, and even unlearned. This insight creates a profound shift. Rather than blaming a partner for conflict or disappointment, we start to see our own role in the dynamic. We begin to respond from choice rather than habit, which transforms interactions from reactive arguments into conscious conversations. Understanding oneself also deepens empathy. When we acknowledge our own vulnerabilities and motivations, it becomes easier to appreciate the complexities of our partner's inner world. This awareness fosters compassion and patience, reducing the likelihood of misinterpretation and escalation during disagreements. Emotional intelligence grows because we are no longer operating blindly. Instead, we are able to navigate not only our own emotional landscape, but also the emotions of those we care about. Moreover, self-awareness informs compatibility. When we understand what we truly need, value, and tolerate in a relationship, we are better equipped to make choices that align with our well-being. We are less likely to enter or remain in relationships that reinforce negative patterns, and more likely to cultivate connections that support growth and mutual respect. His does not guarantee perfection, but it increases the probability of healthy, resilient partnerships. Ultimately, understanding our own psychological patterns is a transformative tool. It shifts the focus from blaming external circumstances or partners to cultivating inner insight. By exploring our triggers, habits, and emotional tendencies, we gain the power to shape the quality of our relationships intentionally. Connection becomes less about chance or chemistry, and more about conscious awareness, empathy, and mutual growth, creating relationships that are not only more stable but profoundly meaningful. As we reflect on the journey through pop psychology and relationship psychology, one thing becomes abundantly clear: meaningful relationships are never simple, but they are always within our reach when we approach them with awareness, curiosity, and intentionality. Pop psychology may offer catchy phrases and instant advice, but it is relationship psychology that illuminates the deeper dynamics, the patterns of attachment, the influence of personality, the impact of culture, and the power of emotional regulation and self-awareness. Every interaction, every misunderstanding, and every moment of connection is shaped not just by who we are with, but by the degree to which we understand ourselves. By recognizing our own psychological patterns, questioning the cultural narratives we internalize, and cultivating emotional intelligence, we gain the tools to transform not only our relationships, but also the way we experience intimacy, trust, and connection. Relationships are not the product of luck or destiny. They are the result of insight, effort, and empathy. As you leave this conversation, remember that the journey of understanding yourself is inseparable from the journey of understanding others. The more conscious we become of our thoughts, our reactions, and our emotional landscapes, the more capable we are of building relationships that are authentic, resilient, and deeply satisfying. Challenges and conflicts are inevitable, but they are not indicators of failure. They are opportunities to grow, to adapt, and to connect on a more profound level. Thank you for investing your time and attention in exploring the psychology of relationships. May you carry these insights into your own life, becoming more aware of your patterns, more intentional in your interactions, and more compassionate toward yourself and those you care about. Good luck on this journey of self-discovery and connection. May your relationships be guided by understanding, strengthened by awareness, and enriched by the profound beauty of genuine human connection.